Good morning. It's Saturday, January 9th, 2021. And we've just had a day of rioting in Washington. And 5 people have died in these riots because of different reasons. And I heard a statement that was made that bothered me. First, I heard it from a congressman that if these protesters had been Black Lives Matter, they would have been treated much differently than the Trump rioters. And I didn't really know what he was talking about. I didn't understand it, why he brought that up. I'm not a particular fan of the Black Lives Matter movement because, as I've said many times, I think police brutality is not the real reason to be out there protesting. It's a side issue in my mind. The real issue for Black Lives Matter is education and opportunity, and I wish they would focus on that and not on police brutality. Yes, there are problems with the police, but these are men and women who put their lives on the line on a regular basis, and they can have emotions that get away from them. And we have to look carefully at every event that takes place. And yes, they've been given too much leniency when they shouldn't have been. So things have to be corrected, but I don't think that that's more important than opportunity and education. In any event, getting back to the statement about the treatment of Black Lives Matter rioters, protesters, Joe Biden said the same thing in a speech, but he offered clarification. At the end of his speech, when he mentioned this, he talked about a picture that his granddaughter told him that she had seen. And you know, granddaughters have a lot of power. I have a granddaughter. I even have some great-granddaughters. Anyhow, he described this picture. It was a Black Lives Matter rally, and it was near the Lincoln Memorial. And in front of the Lincoln Memorial, protecting the Lincoln Memorial, were armed National Guardsmen in full dress uniform to protect the Lincoln Memorial. And so I believe that what his granddaughter was saying, what the congressman was saying, what Joe Biden himself said was, where was that kind of protection when the right-wing fanatics who are attached to President Trump were out there protesting on his behalf, being urged by him to protest? So when I heard what Joe said, I took a different look at this entire situation. And while I think that Black Lives Matter protesters are basically peaceful people, for whatever reason they draw people to their events who are not protesters. They are there to do damage. And we have all seen the videos of the looting and the window breaking and the other low crimes and misdemeanors that have gone on during these Black Lives Matter rallies. And I don't necessarily agree with some of the statements in the Black Lives Matter charter, which contains anti-Semitic rhetoric. And I don't believe in the socialist views of the women who created the Black Lives Matter movement. In spite of what we saw yesterday, we live in a great country. We have freedom of speech, and we have freedom of the press. And our difficulties come from the abuse of those freedoms. We all know that freedom of speech doesn't mean that you can yell fire in a movie house, but it also doesn't mean that you can attack people viciously without any facts, without justification. And as far as the press goes, they've gotten off base. News is secondary to them. It's all about staying in business and advertising. And so I don't know how much real, true news we get anymore. Certainly don't get it on television much. And we as people have to understand that much of the news that we see these days is slanted to the audience that particular media wants to reach. So we have liberal stations like CNN, and we have right-wing stations like Fox News. And we have news media like Breitbart and Newsmax and the patriotic something that are right-wing. And the New York Post, which is right-wing. And the New York Times, which leans to the center, maybe even a little center-left. But it's not real news all the time. It's news for their audience. And that, in my mind, means that the news media and journalism has gotten off base. And you've got all the cable channels that cater to particular audiences. So there's a lot going on in this country that needs to be corrected in some way, shape, or form. And maybe we can't correct it, but we as the audience can be smarter. And maybe that's too much to ask. Think about that. The audience has to be smarter. So I leave you with that. And I'll see you in the morning. Bye.